Yep.
Yeah.
And other things. They
Very sensible offshoot.
Right.
Yeah.
This is interesting podcasting.
Oh wait, have we begun?
I think so.
Oh, lovely.
This
Are
is
we
usually
rolling?
the point where we,
Is this,
where we
is this how it
decide
works?
Are we going, Sarah? 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
Are we supposed
The
to look
answer-
at
we
Probably
answer
really
banter.
uninteresting
Do I look at the
content.
camera all
It
the
got the
time?
Archduke
Yes,
of
you stare
Canterbury
directly
here.
into
Yeah.
the lens at all moments.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
well,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Archduke of Canterbury.
Wow.
All right,
You're
and
really good
Shirley.
at that.
Hello.
Hello.
It's actually,
are we all
Pipe
doing
down.
our
Yeah,
best?
it's no
We're
live
going now,
audience. Live
people.
audience. Wait to the sign.
All right, and Shirley.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful. It's good to see you.
Always
course.
present.
Always.
Yeah.
Chris,
What's up?
had a good night last night.
Howdy ho.
Yeah, it's good to see you down here. You're awake now.
Made it.
Yeah, we all had late nights. Kiva,
Hello.
you look like you're doing fantastic.
Amazing.
Feeling no pain at the moment. And then our special guest, Ric Allinson.
Nice to meet you all.
What's up, buddy?
Good. Everything's up.
Hmm?
Everything's up. It's a happy time.
It's nice to hear someone say that
Yeah. Yeah.
after the year we've had, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends how you focus on the year, because I like to be alone. My wife likes to be alone, so we've had a really good year.
Mm-hmm. Well, we like to play music in great spaces, and so we've had a pretty good year.
Oh, I can see how that might not work out then. Yeah.
You know, I feel very fortunate for what we've been able to do.
Yeah.
But it does feel, to me, it feels like there's a sense that there's a shifting. Of course, I always point towards media because I blame media for everything. But it does feel like there's a shift towards some positivity.
Well, I mean, this is where the Roadhouse came from, though.
Mm.
Like you didn't have the ability to do the live gigs you wanted to do, so you adapted, and now we're all here enjoying the music every week.
Are we adapting right now as a society? Like, what are we adapting to at the moment?
I think we're adapting to the notion that you don't have to go to an office 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like-
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a change.
it's kind of. I'm noticing that we've gone really serious all of a sudden because we knew the camera was on, but it was.
There's
it's
a
definitely
dynamic.
yeah. But it's definitely that 9 to 5 world has kind of drifted from most people's lives,
Yeah.
and then now you're more like a 9 to 9 because you're always at home and you're always working, and there's no. Well, this is the end of the day. I'm going to commute home now.
Interesting.
I like that lack of structure, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely. The ability to choose how you want to use your own time and evolving and deciding how you want to use your own time is now easily accessible to the masses in a way I think that wasn't capable in the old social structure of 9 to 5.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, for some, because there's still essential workers have gone from essential back to unskilled.
Right.
And like you guys are heroes. You guys are heroes. Like now you're unskilled.
Yeah, the ability to
Yeah.
remote in is reserved for kind of
It's
the
for some
more-
things. I mean,
yeah,
for anything that
more
was
white-collar
going to
kind of
be in an
thing.
office that
Yeah.
honestly should have been remote from the start because we've had computers for like 20 years now. But yeah, I agree that like if you can set your own schedule, you should. And like my partner had issues with the 9 to 9, like everything being blurred together, especially because his job was the leasing office of the place that we were living in. So the work to home to life balance was difficult to strike. But once you strike it, it is very nice. But it is a privilege to be able to strike that balance on your own accord.
I think for me, you kind of brought up the magic word there, or magic phrase, unskilled. Well, there's no such thing
There's
as
no such thing.
unskilled.
No?
Agreed.
It's kind of, unless you've gone through and worked in every single industry and every single profession, like, I couldn't work in Starbucks. Like, this is the thing I throw out every time. I'm not really a fan of people. I don't know how to do small talk. So my absolute worst job in the world is working in Starbucks, which is classed as an unskilled job. They've got all the skill in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, how to use a cappuccino machine? I don't know.
Yeah, the only
It's the customer service side, right? That's the skill.
Yeah.
Right.
The skill in keeping your shit together in the face of someone who's complaint is just like, why does it mean that you are less of a person on this planet, or mean less because there is some kind of a fixation of how something should exist for your $7?
yeah.
You screwed up my macchiato.
Call me tipsy.
I waited in line for that.
Call me tipsy, but
Had
that
a rough day.
person is microdosing having servants. That-
Oh.
That person who screams at the service worker, the person who yells at the waiter or whatever, they're microdosing having servants. They want to feel above someone for an iota of their day.
Mm.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think those types of people who get off on that have kind of emerged during COVID times using like mask mandates, for example, as a way to, flex power that they maybe didn't have prior?
Now those people have been around since the beginning of time and should be blowing off steam in an S&M club, but they may or may not, depending on what their hang-ups are. But I don't think that there's like a correlation between them emerging or staying dormant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I would ask because I think you find those types of people everywhere, and I think the loss of the current structure of what we were accustomed to ultimately has shifted the power dynamic, and what we find valuable also has also transformed as well.
Any change can open up a power vacuum, and the people who want to step in and abuse it, again, since the beginning of time.
I don't think it is abuse, though. I think it's just ignorance more than... So the story I heard the other day was a lady went into a Starbucks.
Okay.
And she's not wearing a mask.
Okay.
And so the barista was like, would you mind wearing a mask? And the lady looks around. She's like, there's no one in here. Why should I wear a mask? But what about all the staff?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Like there's this notion that you're not a real person. You're just there to serve me because I'm going to pay you some dollars.
Upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah.
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And then so it's more just the ignorance that if I'm handing over money, therefore you're not an actual entity to me. Almost like you go online with Amazon, like you're not polite to your computer when you order something off Amazon because it's just a program sitting there.
Doesn't it seem as if it's kind of set up that way, though? Like employee uniforms, for instance, and wearing all black and, forced means of speaking. It's effectively trying to make the ordering situation as not automated as possible, but to create a distance between the humanity of the person that's taking the order.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the extreme of that with our particular chain we're discussing is online ordering.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just wonder in there, you got, if your drink's there, you take it. If your drink's not there, then you kick up a stink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So, modern society is dehumanizing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of the pieces of flair from Office Space.
Oh,
and they're working at the Fridays, and you've got to have a certain number of little pins.
I see
on your
you have
vest.
the minimum number of required pieces of flair.
Is this an American thing then?
I'm
Okay.
surprised you
Wow,
haven't seen
Rick.
Office Space.
What?
Wow.
This will be a night.
gonna love
we'll do it on the stage.
You're going to do it on the stage.
That will be
Rick, it's gonna be a
We're
night,
gonna
put the
brother.
camera on.
This isn't going
We'll
on
set up a
YouTube.
screen and
have
we'll do a
those
projector
TBS
thing and whatnot.
report.
And we're going to watch Office Space.
What English reaction to Office Space?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, it's a
I'm
good
saying we're
movie.
going to film it.
It's a good movie.
Reaction video.
We're going to put that on
There you
YouTube.
go, yeah.
The Rick reaction video.
But yeah. as soon as places started
Probably is
saying,
a really good concept, actually.
Yeah.
That's the next channel.
as soon as places started saying the customer's always right, a sadist found a loophole. A sadist who was not trying to be a customer woke up and was like, "Oh, for real?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there."
Yeah.
Because when you create that power dynamic, now somebody who wants to abuse it, and that's kind of more what I meant. Because there's some people who are just going along with it, or there's some people who you've created a dehumanizing rift by having a forced interaction based off of how the company wants their workers to reflect them. But as soon as people started saying the customer is always right, that's when somebody who's having a bad day and knows about themselves that they get off on abusing others,
Yep.
decided, I'm not hungry, but I'm gonna go to McDonald's, and I'm gonna fucking yell at the.
Yeah.
I think that's a
drive-through
small
person.
minority.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that any given person can be a part of that minority, depending on the day and the setup and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it might be a minority of people that do it routinely, but I think that, there are situations in where almost everybody has had a reaction, either like on a telemarketer or like,
Oh, yeah.
that one's even more of a separation because
It
that's still a
is.
person and they're doing something
Yeah.
that's very, very annoying.
Yes.
So it's easy to look at it as like, it's a certain kind of person that's going to go into a McDonald's on a Tuesday and yell at, and go full Super Saiyan Karen.
I mean,
And
full
that's for the
disclosure,
manager.
that's my
But-
parents. And so even if it is a small minority, from my perspective, one is too many.
Yeah.
And I would see it often enough. So even if it is
Yeah.
not everyone, it shouldn't be anyone, because that's still a human being
Mm.
on the other side.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's a very idyllic view of the world, I got to say.
I'm
Is there
24.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We'll see what the world looks like when
Yeah.
I'm your age.
Well, hopefully you'll make it a lot better.
Thank
A
you.
lot better. I tried my best. I'm still trying.
And that's all you can do.
I'm still trying. Yeah.
That's a good segue right there.
Yeah.
What have you done to try your best, Ric Allinson? What is
Wow.
what is the Ric Allinson story?
That's a long story.
Yeah,
But I know
let's hit
exactly.
some
I know
highlights,
exactly
though.
where you're going. I know exactly where you're going. So I worked at a company called Yahoo. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, no,
They had an internet thing, and
It's a small minor. internet
yeah,
thing,
mine,
right?
yeah, and it's
Appreciate it.
like the best company I've ever worked at. It's still to this day. I loved working there. And then Verizon purchased the company in the last 2 to 3 years ago, maybe, and I decided I'm going to move on with my life and retired. And over 2 years, had wonderful time renovating the house, working on my cars, building a workshop, living the dream. But there's this nagging thing in the background, which is there's nothing quite like solving computer problems. Like whether it's software, whether it's networking, whether it's how do you best interact with the customer. And it just nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged. And then so I started looking around, and I didn't want to make a better advert. I didn't want to help your car drive a bit quicker. I wanted to do something that was like meaningful mainly to me because everyone's selfish, but meaningful to humanity as a whole.
Sure.
And I was lucky enough to come across a company which has been around for 65 years called the Medic Alert Foundation. And they make the bracelets that people wear if they're diabetic or they've got Alzheimer's or things like that. And and it's like a foundation that's global. So you've got the US foundation, and then there's a Canadian affiliate, a UK affiliate, Australia, New Zealand. They're kind of all over. But the premise is that first responder comes along. You're unconscious. You can't speak for yourself. They're trained to look for this particular symbol on the bracelet, and then they turn it over, and it will tell them immediate things. And then if they want to know more information, they can phone a number, read off your membership ID, and then they go through to the call center and they give you all the information. They get in
Wow.
contact with your emergency contacts.
Wow.
They kind of do essentially the connection between the emergency responder and you being unconscious and you being in your hospital with your family again. That's the organization. And then so they were looking for a CTO, and I was looking for problems. And we had a chat, and I've been there 4 weeks to Friday. This Friday was the last 4 weeks.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it.
That's good. So I know some of the story, right? We've had late nights together. What set you on the path of solving problems? Like, when did you realize that was something either you had the capacity of doing or certainly the passion for doing?
So if I go back as far as I possibly can, it was a plane crash. It's not as dynamic as it sounds. I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, and I was playing in the field next to our house. And there was a guy with a radio-controlled biplane. And I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And so he's flying this radio-controlled biplane, and I'm like, wow, man, that's amazing. And then something happens, and the thing just nosedives into the ground and just like explodes into 1,000 pieces of balsa wood and bits of paper. And I'm like, whoa. And then he just turns around to me and goes, do you know anyone that's got radio controlled cars or anything like that? And I straight over my head, I've got no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And then years later, I'm like, he's looking for, did someone interfere with his signal? And that's why the plane crashed. So I'm like, oh man, that's really bad. So I run home to go get a plastic bag for him so he can collect his plane. And then I've got to have my dinner, or my tea. It was tea. It was the evening meal. And by the time I get out there with the plastic bag, he's long gone. Thought nothing more of it. And then, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 days later, I'm out in the yard finding twigs and sticks trying to make my own plane. Because I'm like, well, I saw how this thing came apart. I think I could rebuild it. And then in my mind as a 6 or 7-year-old, obviously I made the most amazing biplane. Probably not in reality. And then the next jump from that is, I don't know, it was maybe 11, 12 or something. And at the end of the road, we had our corner shop where you go get your sweets and your candy and whatever else. And then on the other side was a repair shop. And he was a guy, I don't know how long he'd been there, a long time. And this was in the days when you didn't throw things in the trash. If it broke, you took it to a guy.
Wow.
And, well, say a person in our modern terminology now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank
you
you.
take it to this person, and if it's a radio or a record player or washing machine, iron, whatever it was, the guy would take it apart, repair it, and give it back to you, and he'd charge you a reasonable rate for doing it. So I'd go in there, because he got stuff that was broken all over the place, and I'm like, I like broken stuff. And so I'm in there a few times, and he's like, well, you seem interested, I'll give you a record player. So he gave me a record player, and he says, if you can make it work, bring it back and I'll pay you some money. So I was like, yeah, I can totally do that. So I took this record player home. I never took it back, never got it to work. But, and this is the big lesson, and this is what Austin's driving at, because I've mentioned it many times, and my daughter tells me I tell her every single day. It's the lesson I learnt from this person, this man, in this context. He was, if you want to be successful in life and you want to get your first job, do it for free. So I'm like, but I'm now like 12 years old, and I'm like, well, why would anyone work for free? Like, isn't this a capitalist society? So he says, at my age, at that time, go out and wash all your neighbours' cars. Do it for nothing. Just wash your neighbours' cars. And then go back next weekend on the Sunday or the Saturday, whatever it is, and say, oh, well, you washed your car last week, were you happy? And if they say, oh, yeah, you did a really good job, do you want to do it again? Oh, yeah, it's going to cost you £2. And they'd be like, well, you did a good job. I know what you're going to do. Here's £2, wash the car. And then you just repeat that episode. So obviously as a child, I ignored this. Why would I work for free? And then years later, I was going for my first real job. I was in the interview. I was a supposed artist doing graphic design. And the interview wasn't going well. I got a book full of pictures that I've drawn. So I'm like, I'll give you 3 weeks' work. Just the first thing that popped into my mind.
Nice.
I got 3 weeks' work. I was did that job for 13 years. And I progressed from being a person that drew fridge magnets on like letter-sized paper through to the IT manager that ran all the systems for the entire company. And through that lesson, I learned how to program. I learned how to use 3D software. Like, there was just so much that job gave me. And even to this day, I'm still really good friends with the family that made the company. I've actually got a wardrobe in my office today, which I was given by one of the brothers of the company.
A wardrobe?
A wardrobe, yeah.
As
Oh,
in
you
like
might-
a suit? Like
Like
suit.
like a closet, like a
A closet,
big
yeah.
giant-
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
oh,
a
certainly. Okay, right, right.
standalone closet.
Got it. I'm like an ensemble?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, one of the things that I've been... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I apologize. Continue.
What I loved about what you shared was it wasn't about chasing the money, right? But it was chasing a specific intangible value, which was, how can I solve problems? How can I make others feel happy in a way? In a way, it wasn't the what can I get out of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
it was an intangible thing.
Well, I mean, that's
Or was it the drug dealer model? Like,
whoa.
I'll give you this first thing for free, get
First
you
hit.
hooked
Well,
on
that
it,
was
and then
that
you
was
want to
probably
come
the
back,
deal, yeah.
right?
But yeah, so at the time
That
I
works,
was
yeah.
Always follow the money,
yeah.
Anneshirley.
Yeah.
at the time I was a free spirit, and then I'd had enough of being a free spirit. I needed something else to do.
Enough of okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is coded language because I'm employed now.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
not get inflated.
How you chose to spend some of your youth.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
And then
this
so
was
I-
time to find an exit
Yeah.
out of that. Yeah.
Find something different, and it wasn't really until I started this job that I then found I really like solving problems,
Right.
regardless what the problem is.
Right. That's impressive that you found that out at such an early age. I think one of the things that we can look back on in life is just what are the things that motivate you when you're a child, in a way. What are the things that kind of get your gears going, so to speak, and just following that passion throughout life, you'll be fine.
What aligns with you? You know, like what is the thing that causes you to obsess? Like investors always ask, like, what keeps you awake at night? Really meaning, like, what is the problem that you're trying to solve most? And like when people are passionate about what they're doing, it will keep them awake at night. It'll, you know, and if you can find a way to latch on to that and live a
Right.
life that circles around that, great, right?
But I think it's the hardest thing as well, because whether it's a thing today, but through my kind of early 20s, early 30s, it's like, oh, find your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Go find your passion, and then you'll be happy forever.
Right.
And it's like no one knows what their passion is. But you think you know what your passion is. You think it's like, oh, like Chris, I love playing music. That's what I'm going to do. And then so, yeah, you enjoy doing it, but is it really is it the passion? Is it the thing that keeps you? I'm not saying that it's not your passion. I'm just kind
It's
of
actually
using
my
you-
sock collection is my real passion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It really gets me going.
Yeah.
Chris, the
cool.
other night,
You don't even wear socks.
That's why it's
I
a
know.
collection. I keep them in the box like the old
Exactly.
R2D2
Pristine.
figurines.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't
That's why it's such
Don't
a
crack it
hardcore.
open.
Yeah. Like if it wasn't a passion, he would be wearing them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how much I care.
Chris, the other night, we were having one of our like kitchen discussions we have, and he said something I thought was really cool, and he was like how appreciative he was to have music, right, in his life, and like otherwise, like what would I be
I don't know
doing
what
if
I
it
would do
wasn't
with
for
myself
that,
in
right?
my free time or the evenings, you know.
Mm.
I think that a major part of that in everyday life is like, you know, say you've got like your job or whatever, and you work at that and you come home, and then what do you do with your free time after that? It's like you can go and make art, write songs maybe, or get really good at watching Netflix, you know. And like there's a lot of people where I think that if you like not like ask, but like, you know, like what you're putting a lot of time into outside of work, a lot of the times it's stuff like media and entertainment. And I guess it's just nice to have something where there's always like more guitar to practice. There's always a new technique to learn or something like that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Would you say it's more escapism though? So you do a crappy
The
9
Netflix
to 5
thing?
job, and then you come home and you get to watch these most amazing TV shows,
Right.
And you're just escaping that world that you're in.
Yeah, and I think that works the same way that maybe reading fiction or nonfiction does, or something like that.
Well, I mean,
but
even,
yeah,
like,
or
playing
playing music.
music,
Right? Yeah. No, I completely agree that there's an element of escapism in it, to be sure, but also I think that different activities also, you know, you get a different result or a different sense of accomplishment from it as well.
Yeah.
Like, and that you know, I'm not saying that can't be had from a TV show. I mean, there's certain video games that I've beaten that were very, very hard, like Dark Souls 1 through 3.
Oh,
you,
yeah.
you know, right?
I
and
do.
you beat the Gwen, the Lord of Cinder, at the end of
I
Dark
can
Souls
tell you
1.
it's an accomplishment because I haven't beat that
There
person.
you go. So I'll tell you, and then you get it, and you're like, whoa! You know?
But
There's
video
this-
games are interactive.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Watching something less so, but still can be a pastime.
Right. Yeah. So but it is nice to have like that one monolithic thing to spend your life working on, or several monolithic things
Yeah.
to spend your life working on, right?
But then I guess the difference there between like the video game versus say learning to play guitar,
Right.
like the end result is like, wow, I've achieved something. But the video game, you've achieved ending the video game. The guitar, you've got something for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I do wonder
Right.
about that too, right? It's like it's to some extent a lot of experience is kind of like neutral. Like you could spend the evening playing guitar, or you could just spend the evening watching the movie, and like yeah, maybe you get like a useful skill more out of playing the guitar. But you know, if you're really looking at it at like maybe the end of your life or whatever, is you know maybe or maybe not, you'd go, oh, I wish I spent more time playing guitar. Maybe I would end up wishing I spent more time hanging out at the bar with my friends. You know, all of these things. Yeah, it's this value judgment you need to make, and I think in a lot of ways, all experience that's not labor in that sense that you're just doing because you're enjoying, all of that's more or less neutral.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you could do yoga, you could go climb a rock, you could go play video games. It's all a similar experience. It's
Yeah.
pastime.
I mean, so Kiva and I earlier we were discussing Outtimers, and I think it was you brought it up. It was the notion that the more different things you do on a daily basis, the less likely you are to succumb to kind of mental anguish in the later years.
Okay.
So you kind of, and it was only you kind of speaking then. It's kind of like, yeah, I can sit there and play guitar every night for 6 hours,
Yeah.
and then go to work and do whatever my 9 to 5 is. Or I can play guitar for 2 hours. I can go do yoga for 4 hours. I can do whatever these things are. But
Yeah.
every single day you're doing more than just 1 or 2 things.
Yeah. And I think that's a hugely like valuable thing to keep in mind, right? At least, you know, like I think as people in general, we do have a tendency to like, you know, want to, a lot of people will crave variety, but it's really easy to get into this routine of going and doing the Netflix every night. And that's the thing that you do. And maybe you do want to go do something like learn guitar, right? But you end up just getting really, really in depth into the lore of Game of Thrones and Westworld, you know, instead, you know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we're a big binge family. We're a big binge
Isn't
family.
it interesting how the word binging has become like really, really normalized over the last like 5 years? Like you see it in commercials. They're like, oh, go binge watch the new season of Stranger Things. And it's like, how about I don't? I got stuff to do. I'll watch an episode or two, but I get tired, man. Like,
But then that's not a binge. Like when you get tired, you're kind of I'm not connected.
Must consume.
pay for, consume,
Yes.
subscribe.
I still don't have a Netflix account. I just date people. I came off really cocky. But I was in engineering in college. I really could not jeopardize falling into that sinkhole.
Yeah,
And so,
sure.
the binging being normalized, and like I'm not good with moderation. And so I just set these limits with myself. And so I wasn't watching anything. I was in a cinematic arts fraternity, and I've seen like 5 movies. And so most of what I was doing was special effects, makeup, writing, and acting. Because if I was actually dedicating my time to watching movies, I would not have been doing anything else.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say earlier about video games is like, what you can get out of it is community. And what you can get out of it is a sense of accomplishment, even if it's not translatable to much else. You should all watch a movie called The King of Kong. It's really funny. The villain in it kind of looks like you, but with black hair.
You can't
really
say
funny.
villain.
I can't say villain?
No, you can't say villain.
The antagonist?
I
Oh.
don't even think that. So he was an unfortunate soul.
Oh, you've seen it.
King of Kong is one of my all-time favorite documentaries.
It's really good.
Yes. Okay. We shall also be viewing this on the
Yes.
stage as well.
It's the Donkey Kong World Championship.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's
Yes.
a record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
right
we
there, there's
can't.
community.
I guess, yeah, we can't
Sorry?
say villain.
Right.
Because it is real life. And so it's just a guy who had the title, maybe cheated, maybe didn't. It's under dispute.
Well, spoiler alert. Sorry.
Oh, that's it? I thought you were going to
I'm
say
just
more.
saying.
I was just saying maybe
Just
cheated, maybe
flagging
didn't.
it. Shoop.
Yeah, that's the blurb.
That's the blurb. If you look in the
Yeah.
description.
Yeah,
that's
look at
what
the
it
back of the
says.
book. That's what it says.
It was a film.
Look at the back of the film. That's what it says.
So not to
Yay.
guide this conversation too much, but I do want to bring up the fact that you have chosen in your evening hours and then in your retirement to do some interesting maker projects. Would you like to share any of that kind of business with us?
Not really at all. No.
No. Oh, well,
Okay.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just
No.
got set up and then dropped immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I like, I mean, it goes back to the biplane. Like, that's my first maker experience. And makers, I think it's more of a modern day terminology. It's just someone that's wants to make stuff because they're interested in how things go
Kind of used to
together.
be called a tinkerer. in a way,
Tinkerer,
right?
yeah. In fact,
It's harder
my
to say tinkerer.
tinkerer.
than maker. Maker's snappy. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No, I think in the old days it was just a Renaissance person.
Mm-hmm.
It was like somebody that was just interested in all these different realms and how they went together. And then like tinkerer or maker, whatever they are, it's kind of the modern day view of it. And it's just a notion that you want to do something no one else has done. And in the process of doing that, you want to learn something new. Like that's how I would describe the word maker as a dictionary definition. And then I've done lots of makery type things, but the biggest one I've done, which is now coming on to 5.5 year project, is converting a 1983 Porsche 911 to an electric car.
Oh, lovely. I have some friends you should talk to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When I say that, everyone says, "Has Tesla offered you a job?" And the answer is yes, but it got nothing to do with electric cars. But anyway, so I started this when the Tesla Model 3 was first announced, and I queued up in Santana Row in San Jose for 2 hours to get my name down. I paid my deposit, and then I was reasonably disappointed to find out it was going to be like 2 years before that I would actually get my hands on the car. I was going to say keys, but you don't have keys in Tesla,
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
the hands on the car. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to make my own. And then through the fortune of my career, luckily enough, I had the investment to be able to do this. So I started 5.5 years ago now, and I purchased a 911 for $28,000, I think it was.
Wow.
And it was in Watsonville, which is just behind us here.
Yes, it is. Yes,
And I drove it to Morgan Hill, which is where we are now.
Correct.
And that was the first time I drove the car, and the last time it drove under a combustion engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it took me, I think, 3 months to build up the courage to actually take the engine out. And it was because like Porsche engineering, you're kind of like, oh, it's the gold standard, I can't abuse it, this and that and the other. But I'm like, you know what, electric engines, they're far superior, they've all the control, all the rest of it. Anyway, shoot forward 5.5 years, and I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, was the first time I drove the car under the power of electric and was confident it wasn't going to burst into flames or just die.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Where'd
Yes.
you take it?
Down the road and back again. Well, I say down the road, the drive. I literally just went down the drive, reverse, went down the drive, reverse, went backs and forwards.
But she drives.
So
She
I've-
drives.
But she
She does
drives?
drive. Yep.
I have some
Yep.
friends who live in Millbrae, one of whom worked on the octocopter for the Mythbusters, and the other one who is taking a really shitty car because he cannot afford a Porsche 911 and converting it to electric. He's my age, and the other one is about in his early 30s. And they've converted a bunch of scooters to electric, and they also stole a bunch of the Lime scooters. I mean, for
Scooters, you're
for
saying like
legal reasons, this is a joke. But
is this Vespa?
no, so like the Lime scooters and Bird scooters. Have you seen the Plagues of the Earth that violate
Oh,
cities?
yes, yes,
Time
yeah.
on them through the app. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, the Locust on wheels. So they stole a bunch of
Locusts
those.
consume things. I don't think they consume things.
These consume
Your soul.
yeah
soul,
power,
okay,
time, and space.
Space, yeah.
So anyway, so they're my maker or part of my maker friend group. I'd love to introduce you to them if you're ever free, because they've got some cool projects under their belt, and I helped them build a tiny house at one point. I think they went and flipped it.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah,
That
they're
is
cool guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Do you
Yeah.
ever consider like the utility in your projects? Like, how will solving this problem be useful to like the masses? Or are you just
No, I'm too self-absorbed.
oh
Yeah, unfortunately. But the answer is like inside, yes. I would like to say I think about that,
Sure.
but it is like going back. It's purely this problem-solving issue. It's like, this is like, how do I solve it? How do I make this work? For me, personally. And then if that happens to help humanity, then so be it. Which is why I have the job I have at the moment, because
I was going to mention that.
I've got this
Right.
like huge gaping hole that I have to fill, which is solving really hard problems. And I've got a company which is incredibly successful that wants to progress into the modern world, but they just don't have the money, the Silicon Valley money, to make that happen. So that's a huge problem for me, and I just can't help myself but try and solve it.
I see.
So yeah, in answer to your question, yes, but because I'm selfish.
So
And then I have to quote Joey from Friends at this point. I'm not a Friends fan, but I apparently have seen every episode. I don't know how, just like in the background. But there was this one episode where Phoebe and Joey were discussing charitable events, and Joey was like, "Everything is selfish. There is nothing you can do that is not selfish." And Phoebe, the hippie girl, she's like, "No, I'll prove you wrong." And at the end of the episode, it was like, "Yeah, doesn't matter how charitable you are, whatever act you do makes you feel good." And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you can do something that helps other people and you'll feel good, what more do you want?
Well said. As simple as
Yeah.
feeding someone, right?
Exactly.
As simple as just providing someone with nutrition, sustenance to make it a few hours more. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's no reason you should that shouldn't feel good from like an evolutionary biological perspective. That makes perfect sense, right? To get some sort of feel good hit from helping a member of your species survive.
Yeah.
I
But
kind of take offense to this viewpoint, because that makes the only magnanimous person the placated sociopath who is getting no dopamine from helping his fellow man, but is doing it because mathematically he understands that it is good because of some ethics class he took or something. It's so removed. I don't think that there's anything selfish in feeling good for being able to see yourself as good for doing something that you've labeled as good, even if it's magnanimous. If it's not directly benefiting you, I think that doesn't take away from its magnanimity. But we're putting people who are doing it as going through the motions on a pedestal if we're saying that intrinsically feeling good makes it cheapened in some way. I don't really agree with
I
that.
don't think it was said that it was cheapened.
Well,
Right.
I mean, it depends on how you want to define selfish.
But
right?
I feel like that's kind of the gimmick in the Friends episode of nothing is truly good if you're doing it because it makes you feel like a good person, or because it makes you feel good.
I
That's
think you've
interesting.
articulated the words Joey couldn't say as his character.
Oh, lovely. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a himbo, so
But I think it was
he's a himbo.
a
He's
himbo. What's
a
a himbo?
himbo. A himbo. A male bimbo. Who,
Oh,
he's
Himbo.
something to look at. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
not
I need
much else.
to get
Okay,
younger then.
Himbo
That was good,
also
yeah.
means you're nice. No, but I feel like this is an addendum. Nobody who is hot and mean can be a himbo. But Joey's cusp himbo.
Right. How you doing?
How you doing?
And I might be doing just fine.
We're probably getting sidetracked in the
We
whole modern day connection to Friends as a series.
Yeah.
There's issues there. There is issues there.
Deal?
But I
Go ahead.
think you're correct, and
Yeah.
it's the notion that it's a selfish act to help other people. That was kind of his comedy view of the particular episode. But I point to Austin and Chris and Kiva, you're all musicians, you all get on the stage, you all enjoy what you do, and everyone that watches you enjoys what you do. It's exactly the same situation.
So-
You're getting happiness from a process that you do, and you're providing happiness to other people.
Right.
Even
So-
then, though,
Oh.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm pretty
so
skeptical.
to do your what was it, benevolent sociopath?
No, placated.
Placated.
A placated
sociopath.
sociopath.
Yeah. So if there was a situation that I got on, I don't know, you or I got on stage and felt nothing, but one did it anyway because there was a message you wanted to get across or something like that, but you didn't feel good about it, right? Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's like morally like superior to going
Yeah.
on stage and getting a good hit from it, but
That's all I'm
but
trying
that
to
is a
say.
fascinating person that would go do that.
Yeah,
Well,
it
it's-
shouldn't be. It
that's-
shouldn't be positioned as more noble.
Right.
But I think that when people are taking away from the goodness of an action by saying, well, the chemicals in your brain are firing such that
Mhm.
you are now reinforcing doing something good for your own benefit and using that to undercut the benefit to humanity or the benefit to your social circle or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a good, like, just by law of induction, then you're saying that Dracula deciding not to suck blood that night is more magnanimous than somebody who goes
mean,
and feeds the homeless.
Possibly.
But
you
why?
know? Well, so to to go back to video game world for a second.
Oh, please,
Yes,
take me there.
All right, so
Take me there.
Skyrim. All right.
I love it.
All right. So
The rim of
remember,
the sky.
remember when you get to the top of the
Austin,
mountain
I'm
and you
just,
meet.
I'll be back in a minute.
No, no, no. This is
No,
okay. So
okay.
you meet Parthenux, this dragon
Yeah.
who can talk, right?
Uh-huh.
And like the dragons are obviously enemies of like people in general.
Are they?
But he
I didn't
poses,
know that.
Well, and you know, okay, well there you go.
They are.
A little
Yeah.
background. Okay,
Oh,
but
okay.
like so,
Yeah.
but it's this good-ish dragon, and he poses this question to the main character, like, what is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature
Oh my
through
God.
great effort?
An absolute fuckboy asked me the same question.
Whoa.
He was like, I defeat nasty urges every day. Am I better than someone who never had them? And I'm like, whoa.
Okay, I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah,
But
okay,
that's what
but
I'm
like,
saying.
so like, yeah, but if
the
you're-
dragon is mythical, has a maybe instinctual desire to eat humans.
Right.
The fuckboy, not so mythical, has an instinctual desire to play others.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I'm saying that I kind of want to get to the result of the action. What you're not getting a cookie for holding back or not. It's kind of what I'm saying. It can be beneficial to
Right.
have an internal system that rewards you for being good, but I'm kind of utilitarian when it comes to doing good.
Right, it's
What
outcome.
is the result? What is the impact? I'm not going to give you points for stopping yourself from killing someone that day.
Right.
It's just not in
Right.
my moral chemistry.
Right.
Anyway,
It's well said.
I follow that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cool.
follow that.
All right.
I'm going to stay quiet on this one.
Okay.
My brain's all over the place now. I'm kind of thinking, you know, if someone struggles every single day not to kill another person, then I think that's a good thing.
you think it's good?
You're rewarded with your freedom. Would you say that?
You're...
Right?
I don't think-
I'm,
well,
I'm,
no.
I'm just throwing that out there, like the idea that there's a penalty if you do choose to do that, right? And you're caught, and it's proven, and so it's like, are you rewarded for your freedom because you choose not to lose your shit? And
Well, no, so let's
make
phrase
the
it
action.
slightly differently. And I hate this type of, what do we call them, straw man
Yeah.
scenarios. I really can't stand them. So I'm a person, and every single day I wake up, and I'm like, oh, really, really want to kill someone. I would just, that would make me so hard if I could kill someone. And every single day, I know it's wrong, and I fight with myself every single day not to do that. So in the scale of Kiva's world, where does that put me? Like inside, I'm clearly a murderer, but I'm trying my best not to do wrong.
In Kiva's world, as long as you don't do it, you're still okay, but you're not necessarily any better than someone else who also doesn't do it. But that's also because I don't really like to put people in stratifications. So that's another element of my worldview. Is I don't really like to stratify in general.
Yeah.
That person deserves help. Like if one of my friends came up to me, I mean, they might not be my close friend anymore, but if they came up to me and said, every single day, I struggle not to murder people.
Thank you so much. Could you do that one as well?
Delivery service here.
For the show?
Thank you, Zach.
It's all for the show. It's all for the show.
Earlier, we were just talking about selfishness being like technically good, right? And if we take this murderer situation and the murderer doesn't kill, he's choosing not to be selfish. He's thinking beyond himself. He's thinking about the impact it'll take on his neighbors and his family and all of this, doesn't that mean he is on your, I mean, just consider this for a second. Doesn't that mean he's technically higher on the scale than the person who doesn't even have that urge in
No.
a way? No?
No,
No.
I think he breaks, like that particular person would break the Joey paradox.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because it's the opposite of the paradox.
Exactly.
He would break the Joey paradox. I agree there. But in my scale, he's still just neutral. But I think the good thing about that neutrality is that I did a cognitive science degree. There are some people who really truly just want to be lambasted as evil. They get a dopamine hit from having their worldview confirmed that they are so bad. And sometimes that comes from being abused as a child. Sometimes that comes from things just not panning out and wanting to pin it on something. And what I say to that person is like, no, you're neutral. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to reinforce that you're the most evil person in the world in order for you to continue to stay in this hole. The result is the same. You didn't do a bad thing. That's cool. But you're not getting credit for what you don't do. You get your credit for good things. And you should get help for the things you struggle with.
I'm down with this. I mean, the idea of like reinforcing, like, oh, good, you didn't lose your shit today.
Yeah,
like,
it's
congratulations. It's
not
like
really with
well,
that.
That's what we're all like. Kind of, if we're going to continue to exist in some form of society, like we all
Yeah.
have to abide by some level of that, right?
Yeah, because who's to say
Except
the person
when
who
you're in
doesn't...
Starbucks,
Yeah, because who's to say the person who doesn't steal...
which not true.
and
by the way.
because they're hungry, now we're stratifying things in ways that I just cannot, because it's more about the impact for me.
Ice.
So someone who might kill because they just have a maniacal or diabolical urge, versus someone who's killing for, I don't know, like they're a Templar in the Crusades. I can't. I only care about the impact.
We need to change the topic right now.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, we need to change the topic because I've just got, I believe the young term is triggered.
Yes.
Is that a thing? Yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about Templars. We have a Brit with us.
All right. So when did you like one of the things, and this is what I was going to bring up earlier. One of the things that I'm like on as a parallel or woven in aspect of the podcast is hearing about people's Silicon Valley life. So how did you go from, record player in the shop, wherever the heck in England you're from, to
Politically
Silicon Valley
correct,
and
I like
sitting
that,
here?
yeah.
All right, that's very culturally sensitive, wasn't it?
Thank you very much.
Zach.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Zach.
Zach.
That was Zach,
Jesus
if
fucking
anyone
Christ.
doesn't know. Are you whispering to yourself now?
I'm really trying to whisper to him, but
I
I'm
think
mostly
wanting a
whispering
lighter.
to Chris.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Some
yeah.
ASMR.
You can't whisper into a microphone.
I know,
That's
I was
not how
moving
it works.
myself. I was moving myself.
Yeah.
You're going to the wrong ears.
Zach,
Yeah.
Zach. Oh well.
So, I mean, it's a super simple thing. You get a job, and then the job leads to other job and another job and another job and so on and so on.
Sure.
The reality is luck.
Hmm.
And this is something that I constantly tell people is I'm just lucky. I'm lucky enough to have misfortune is a way to word it. So the reason I ended up working at Yahoo, which was only my second job, so my first job we kind of discussed, company. My first company that I worked for was a family owned in Thanet in Kent called Elgate Products, and they're still going today. And they're still going strong, and they're doing all the things that, like,
Well done. Yeah.
Great.
if I had a chance and I had took my money, I'd be like, maybe I'll go back and invest in that and carry on doing it because it's like 13 years of my life. Like you can't turn that down. So the next 12, 13 years with this internet company that, honestly, when I first started working for them, I didn't know who they were. But we're going back, 15 years now from today.
Right.
And I'm living in England. And Yahoo might have been a huge American company at the time, but it was nothing in Europe, nothing at all. Because, Google.
Yeah.
And then so the long story here, I don't know oh no, we've got another half hour now. Okay.
We've stretched it out 30 more minutes.
Yeah. So long story here is I was working with a programming language called PHP, which is what I'd kind of built my job on in the current company. And I'd gone to a conference in London about this programming language PHP, and then went there, did my thing, came out, and then there was a Yahoo person. They were just handing out cards. They didn't care who you are. Like, oh yeah, come and work for us. So handing out these cards. And then so the next day I get back to my day job, the real job, and I get called into the office of the brother that runs the company, the managing director. And he's like, so you weren't in the office yesterday, so verbal warning. And I'm like, I thought I said I wasn't going to be here, but maybe I didn't. So verbal warning. And then so obviously as a young person, I'm kind of annoyed. So I'm like, I'm going to phone the number on the card I got. And then so I phoned this Yahoo number, and then a guy, I can't remember his name, but he's still a big guy in London now, and he phones me. And then he's talking on the phone, like first phone interview. And in hindsight now, after many, many years of being in the industry, he had no idea what he was going to ask me. So the question is, what's on your bookshelf? Like, what books do you have on your bookshelf? Because you don't have a question to ask. So the person at the other side is like, oh shit, what's on my bookshelf? And they're not sitting next to their bookshelf. So they're like, oh no, what's on what does he want to know? What does he want to know? And I just turned around and went, well, there's my bookshelf. I've got 6 books. And then so I just told him what they were. It was like PHP and Java and something and something.
Well played. And
he's like, oh, okay, then yeah, you should come in for an interview. So then I go for the interview, and I was interviewed by several people, but Anton Yugstov was my soon-to-be manager, and he posed me a problem, which was a coding problem. And it was, given the letters A, B, C, D, what code would you write to organize those in every possible combination? Now this, in the IT world, is like, bang, I'm done in 2 seconds. Like, that's the easiest problem in the world. 2 hours later, I'd still not solved this fucking thing. And I'm like writing code on the board, and he's helping me, and he's doing this, and he's doing that. And then so I'm like, yeah, I definitely haven't got the job. So I thought nothing more of it. I was upset inside, but And then turns out I did get the job. And I'm like, wow, that was crazy. Well, yeah, okay. So I get there and I start doing the job. And it was probably 4 years later, I find out that Anton, my manager at the time, was under huge pressure to hire anybody. Anybody. We just need somebody to write code. And I happen to be that somebody.
Oh, wow.
And then that was essentially how my Yahoo career began.
Wow. It's really lucky timing. Really lucky.
Lucky.
Very lucky.
Lucky. And that, I think, like, there's this notion that if you work hard, you will be successful. And it's not, it's luck.
Yeah.
Like, you can be lazy as hell, meet the right person and become a billionaire. Or you can work your entire life 9 to 5 and barely make.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what you said, though, is meet the right person. And someone once said to me that 95% of luck is showing up. And I do believe in that. It's like, you're not going to sit on your couch watching Netflix and your dreams transpire. Yeah. That is not going to happen.
So
in some way, you have to affect this to happen. You have to manifest, right? In some form, you have to put wheels in motion for that lucky moment to happen. Like, one of the things that when people talk about overnight successes, lots of times it's like, you kidding me? Like, they've been killing themselves for 8 years. They've been killing themselves. Just, you've never heard of them. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is everywhere. Well, guess what? That's marketing. You know? You know, it's like, no, it's like they finally found somewhere, the machine found something that they could pump money into to make more money. It's like, that's why you think it's an overnight success. It doesn't mean that they weren't living out of a van for the past 7 years.
And then so the filling in the story to that, like, I made it sound lucky. And then, but to your point, it's like, well, I need to be at an interview in London at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
So that means I have to be out of bed at 5 in the morning to get there for 9.
Yeah.
but I don't trust the world. So I'm up at 3 a.m. I get the first train. I get there 2 hours early so I can be there for the interview.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
And this is something I think I'm not going to say young people, but it's something that everyone can make an excuse for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm late because of traffic. I'm late because of this. I'm late because of that. And the excuse is, no, you didn't think through all the possibilities for you not to be where you want to be. And for me, it's a medical
Wow.
condition. I can't help it. I'm kind of like, oh no, this is a problem, so I need to do this and do this and do this. So I'm going to be there 2 weeks early, but I'll make it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then so other people, it's kind of like, yeah, it's I'm an hour late, whatever. Like it's an attitude to how you want to work with your environment.
Mm.
That's very relatable in my life. Like, I know if something is sprung on me, the likelihood that I'm going to be punctual plummets. But if I'm able to prepare, I can tell myself I need to be there an hour early and convince myself that late is early. But it is an attitude.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's just how, like, to some extent, it's how much you value whatever the thing you're doing. Again, if it's getting sprung on you,
course.
that's one thing, right? But yeah, like given enough motivate, you know, if
Or
you want it bad
discipline.
enough, I think even the laziest, most bye Rick, most the laziest, most like unpunctual person, if they want something bad enough, that's an easy enough thing to overcome.
Well, it's
right?
it's discipline, and like if you've
Mhm.
never been taught self-discipline, or if you've never been guided through self-discipline because it's self, then you're gonna have a hard time. And I don't really believe in laziness. You guys are gonna find out about all sorts of stuff that I think is a hoax. I don't really believe in laziness. I believe that there are certain people who want certain outcomes that they're either willing or not willing to work for,
Mm.
and there's certain people who have hurdles that they have not learned how to overcome. And to separate the two makes
Yeah.
life so much easier. If you label it all as lazy, everything's a failure. If you label, okay, I'm just not going to do that thing because I actually don't want to. Even though I might enjoy the outcome of doing it, I know deep down inside I don't want to go through that process. Versus there are some obstacles to me achieving this thing, and I could actually really benefit from asking for help.
That's
How-
interesting.
That's a good characterization of it. It's far less negative than just, oh, you're lazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't help anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very blaming kind of
Or
thing. Oh, this
fixed
person is that.
mindset versus a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Lit.
Just to add to that too, I think the environment matters. Right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, are my needs going to be satisfied, or do I actually have the resources that I need to achieve this thing?
Yeah.
No, yes. Right. I think that also is part of the.
I think to some extent that's also
Totally.
reinforced by what's happened in the past, right? If you
Sure, yeah.
put out a bunch of
Yeah,
effort
absolutely.
on something and then it might not have worked out or something like that, then your propensity to repeat that action and want to try again is maybe slightly lowered.
Mm-hmm.
My
Which can,
internal
again-
conflict.
How much laziness is a reaction to a fear of failure?
So that's
it-
the
For me,
root
100%.
Oh,
That's a good
that's
question.
the root of procrastination.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so many people who procrastinate are perfectionists because they think that
Yeah.
themselves tomorrow are going to be better than themselves just doing it right now. Or people who are afraid or superstitious even about revision or about editing. It's like, I need to get it done all in one go. And I mean,
Sure,
that can be
yeah.
pathological. And so that's kind of what I mean by like obstacles where asking for help might be the solution, because there are some people who do not have that relationship with getting things done. And they might even just not really want to do it, but they want the result, whether it's the accolades or the money or whatever. But there's other people who really want to do it, are actually gratified by the process, but there is something pathological stopping them.
I think a lot of procrastination is fear-based like that too, because
Yeah.
it's you don't have to put your thing out there if it's never finished.
Yeah, or if you never
Right.
put your best foot forward, no one can judge you, truly.
Yeah, that's
No
true.
one can look
Yeah.
deep inside your soul and say you did your best and this is what it amounted
Yeah, you're like,
to.
oh, I didn't try.
Exactly.
I didn't try that hard.
Yeah, and
Right.
that can be
Yeah.
that can
Yes.
be pathological.
Which
Yes.
you hear that a lot too. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
from people that have maybe put something out there and then it opens themselves up
Yeah,
to criticism.
I'm
It's
100%
like, oh,
guilty of that.
I didn't. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. Creative work. It's hard, right? Like it's you've got to face down your own kind of like fears and preconceived notions
Lots of
about what you're
self-doubt.
doing. Yeah. I mean, having released an EP earlier this year, like I was for the first time. It was, but yeah, it was staring down the barrel of exactly that, of staring down the barrel of my own perfectionism, leading to procrastination. I mean, Austin will tell you how many nights I spent listening to the same damn guitar sound over and over. Yeah, he's probably like,
That's wonderful.
let me sleep.
Yeah, I think I'm going through that still because I haven't really put anything out there, nothing like serious is recorded or online for me, like in a booth or a studio.
Yeah.
And part of it is that I've not really gelled with any of the like studio type people that have wanted to record me, and so I have been doing the slow amassing of the components to record it and produce it myself. So that's one component, but the major component is that I just get super spooked as soon as I hear it. I'm like, I don't want that to be permanent. I don't want that to be forever. I love performing live because it's gone as soon as I shut the fuck up. It's kind of how I've preferred it for a long time. But overcoming that fear, I think, would really do me good.
Yeah, and I think to some extent it is like repetition. It's that accepting of being like, this recording that I make for the first time isn't going to be the way that I want it to, maybe, and dealing with that. And kind of having to just eat it. It sucks, you know.
I've done that for performing live.
Yeah,
and I refuse to expose myself to it for recording.
Yeah. But it can be a very like purifying
Still have the
process
lighter.
to it can be very freeing to have to deal with that, and then you it sucks, and then you get over it, and I don't know.
I would like to see you go into a studio where no one tried to control any aspects of it.
Oh, wouldn't that be a day?
The only thing is, well, you can do that, right? I mean, frankly, it's just an investment.
It's true.
This is how I want my experience to be, and just finding someone who has a good ear for capturing your sound, and like finding that space, and then someone has the right equipment to capture that sound, and then just letting you do your thing. Like I would be interested to hear that, and not with the idea that it needs to be take after take after take, and then let's go back and let's review this again, and maybe we should work out this part of it, but with very little bit of, of focus on, is there any drop in the energy? Like as this is going along, is there any point where I myself even feel like I'm not paying as much attention to what's going on? Like those are the only things that are barriers to some successful songs, is just that you lose someone along the way, right? And so if you could just get into a space with real warm microphones and just play,
It would be really nice.
do it, and then whatever it is that moment, right? That's the same thing as playing live, but it just got captured, you playing it live.
Right.
And but in a good environment sound-wise. That could be, I'd like to hear what that's like.
I would love to do that. Yeah, it's always been a really odd power dynamic or really odd process, or I was dating the person or whatever. So that's my own fault. But
The studio is intimidating.
But this is something I find fascinating about musicians. And comedians and kind of people that do the same thing day in, day out. Like you guys, you write your songs and you can play them over and over and over again. And for me, it's once I've done something and I think, I'm not going to say a no, I think I could do it again, then I've lost interest.
That's so interesting.
it's kind of the same for me.
Is that the difference between how you're feeding the logical side of your brain? Like, because you have to solve problems. We're solving problems, but it's in like, I'm going to solve a problem of how to translate this emotion, right?
Yeah, but
and
then
you're
once-
saying
Sure.
like, I must understand this mechanical thing that I have encountered, and that is the only way I'll be satisfied is once I understand the functionality of this. Where we're saying, okay, I'm going to take another crack at telling someone that I love them.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. But so when you like, each of you have got a song that you sing and you're happy singing it and you can sing it every single time. So in my world, like a problem recently was FTP transfer. Means nothing to many people, but it was this weird double hot FTP thing, and it took a while to understand it. I didn't work it out. I was told how it worked. And then once I kind of connect it to the dots, I'm like, okay, then that's good.
Right. But then it works, right? So
it works, yeah.
and that's all you need to do with it. But I think with like songwriting and performing, it's not about making the engine go. It's about honing the thing and continuing to
it's
smoke
almost
away
like
at
the
it and
fuel.
get it better.
It's almost like making what kind of fuel can I run in this engine now? You know, like let's change this fuel just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like I've said this before, it's like it's been a long time since the first person wrote the first love song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been countless love songs that have happened in between, and yet it still has value to write love songs tonight.
No,
Like,
I don't think it's Zach's Tastes Like Peaches.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sings that, and then he sings it again, and then he sings it again,
Right.
and he sings it
Sure.
again. And then to me, that's like I'm working on a factory line.
So the person who's driving your race car, like you want to understand how to build this race car, and so you build this race car. Well, the guy driving it, that's the musician. He's like he's doing the lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, and each time he's trying to make sure he's doing it as best that he can. Like how do I
Right.
make sure I hit the apex of this corner as best I can each and every time? So then when it comes, it's Grand Prix day, right? Grand Prix, then I've got to get in here and execute as best I can, and I think that's what we are as musicians. We're trying to perform at the best level that we can. If that's your intention, you know, that's my intention.
that makes
I'm
perfect
kind of
sense to me.
stuck in between the two of you because
Oh, really?
I really struggled for when I first started writing music. It was in a circle quite like this, and I would ask everybody for like 10 words and never perform the song again. Never even wanted to hear reference to it again. But that moment of sharing it with people, and the only reason why I would ask them for words is so that the people who were around me knew I was making it up on the spot. Because I tried it, I said, hey, I'm going to make you a song up on the spot, make it up on the spot, and they don't believe me. And so you have to get the audience involvement so that they know 100% this is minted right here in front of you. And so I feel what Rick is saying, where it's like, I've been disgusted when people have said like, "Hey, play that song again about that," and I was like, "No, that was
You solved
for
that
them,
problem
right then
Yeah,
and there
yeah.
only." To replicate it or to try to put myself back,
I do see how that's
there
stuck in the middle.
would be
Yeah.
so mind-numbingly boring that I would give up in the middle, and you would be disappointed.
Yeah.
But then I've also had the same thing that you're saying, where it's like I want to hug that turn, I want to hit that high note, I want to prove that I can put every single best part of when I've performed into 2.5 minutes. And so I kind of teeter back and forth between those two philosophies of like, some things are just meant to be done once, and other things you really, really want to hone. Kind of like what Chris was saying.
Yeah. No, I've just had an enlightening conversation tonight, understanding musicians. I feel happy inside.
I want to say as well, following with that, Kiva, like as a performer, like not every band does this, but this is certainly the Heart Souls band. Like when we play, it's not every song does not follow the same note for note, right? There's some that there's just kind of a honed in thing that it jives, it works, why change it, right? It works. But there's also a lot of space that we put in there to where whoever's feeling the thing, like they get to inject their thing. And so then that is something that happens that one time, you know, and that's what's great about live performance. But if you can get a studio capture, then that, I hate to kind of put in these terms, but it's true. It's like that's the product that you deliver to someone in their comfort, by which they do a litmus test and decide where you land, and you know, and then do they want to then exchange what they consider their value for coming out and spending time experiencing that live, that live
That's
performance.
what I hear from my
with you.
partner all the time. He's like, there are people who have heard your music who would like to hear it again.
Yes, yes, this is very true. They don't hear it as much as you do.
Though there is a I think a very distinct difference between like the art form of a recorded piece of music vis-a-vis the art form of a live piece of music, right? Around the entire experience. And I think that it's kind of nonsensical to like conflate the two as being like even within like the same realm of art. Like they're similar in the sense that you're creating, you know, like sound waves, and one of them gets like reproduced, right, over and over again. But the entire process by which you create one is entirely different from the process by which you create something live, right? And I just think that that an artist or musician might excel really well under a recording form, if that's like the thing that they've really, that is just their thing. And another equally talented musician would excel really well in the live sphere or in making up songs on the spot. But maybe the recording thing is just less important to that person's art, right? So I think that's different. You can have a live experience, then they get the recorded version of the song, and you're like, this kind of sucks comparatively.
Yeah, but I think
Right.
there's something unique about that live. Like it might be a mistake to you, but it's unique to the audience when you're live.
Right.
I didn't say anything about mistakes.
Yeah,
No,
not
no,
necessarily
I
a
know.
mistake, but
Yeah.
like the spark.
Yeah, but there's in that live context, like you might decide to add an extra verse or whatever the thing is, and it's something unique to the moment, which I think is why so many people love the live context.
Oh yeah, I think that's great. It's like that's the kind of place where like the real mind blowing stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're like, this is the thing that happened. Like, were you at like like Fish and Grateful Dead fans are a
Yes.
great
Yeah.
example of
Yeah.
this ad nauseum.
Yeah.
They'll be like, but this show when Jerry he switched his guitar to this one and it created this sound and then a portal opened. And I might have been hallucinating that, but it was still rad. Like you get that kind of stuff. And it is. And I think that there's this increased sense of specialness around like the live
Unique.
recordings.
I think it's uniqueness.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. I mean, I would say that you could call it either again, depending
Yeah.
on how many
No,
how many
I
drugs
mean,
you're on.
I've seen
But-
many kind of either comedy or music things, and the first time you see it, it's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then like 2
Yeah.
years later, you see that something that's the same, and it's like slightly different, but it's like it's the same laughs, the same thing. It's like it's just formulaic as opposed to being natural and
Yes.
kind of this is what's happening this day.
Yeah.
If
Which
the
is where the
creator
Grateful
doesn't
Dead
change
loved.
it up along the way, then that happens, right? Like if they get a shtick that works for them, and then they just keep like working. Like a lot of authors do this, right? It's like this is the formula for writing this book, and then a comedian might say like this is my vein, my niche of how I deliver what I'm doing. Songwriter's the same thing. Any creator is the same thing. But then if they don't continue to evolve on top of that, then they're like, well, I know I can make money doing this, and they might have managers and people invest in them who are saying that, like, no, don't go this direction. Like, let's just keep doing the same thing. Like, stamp that out again. Don't you want to buy that yacht, man? Let's just stamp that out again. And how do you I love the creators who are able to continue to own their direction. They're not dependent on that, and they like David Bowie, man. Like David Bowie, like what? Like this guy could put it wherever he wanted to put it, and you take that however you want to take that. But
Chris,
he really could do so much
looked
with his
right at
music,
you.
and some of it, yeah, sure, it's eclectic. It's maybe hard to consume, but at the same time, he was years ahead of his time, and he continued to control each thing that he produced and put out there, and strive for it and evolve for it. And I really appreciate his music for it.
Yeah, but so changing tack slightly then. Like you go back to the early days of Bowie, and he was young, naive, like he was just doing what he wanted to do. And then at some point he got the money. And I think this is the catch. In anyone's kind of career, at some point they get the money. And then at that point they either just replicate what they're doing, and they're very concerned they don't break that mold because the money will go away.
Right, which is what I was saying about the comedians, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or they just go, I've got the money, fuck it, I'm going to go crazy and see what you think. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
How
the good
great.
shit. Yeah, that's good.
Like I dig it. Like what freedom that is.
Yeah,
like the
but here's-
idea of like fuck all. Like I have something that I produce and consistently, even when I do. Like think about Brian Wilson, right? Think about Pet Sounds and stuff like that. Like it was him having to have sand in his house because he must feel this sense of freedom, like this constant sense of freedom to push his creations further and further. And when someone might first experience it, it's kind of like, I don't easily consume this like they might some mass-produced top 40 song. It's like I can't immediately. But then once you dig into it, it's like amazing genius. And I think that's what I'm saying is like that freedom when I see an artist reach that level, it's just beautiful to me. Like, I love that idea.
So where I'm
Yeah.
going with this is it's not freedom, it's capitalism.
Wait.
Like
what?
you can't have that freedom and not have money. Like you need that base. You need that base of hard
Yeah.
cash to say I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do.
That's what keeps me coding, is that I think that I don't want somebody to tell me how to make my music, but I would love to make it the way I truly like to make it. So that's what keeps me applying to the,
I don't
Boston
disagree.
dynamics and
Yeah.
et cetera.
I think
Yeah,
that it oversimplifies and does a disservice to like the creative spirit to imply that not imply but like this the capitalism argument, and that's what you need to do to have the independence in order to create great art or stuff that's the pinnacle of your career. I would say that in that case, if you're looking at Bowie or somebody that did have a budget to do that, yes, what it does is it gives you the power to create things maybe unhindered, but that doesn't necessarily need to be done through capitalist means. There are people that make absolutely fuck all amazing music in a basement with a one studio monitor with a blown speaker cone, on Fruity Loops or GarageBand or something like that.
Sure.
And the amount of like beautiful, interesting material that can come out of a person, you don't need to be Brian Wilson walking on fucking sand in order to unlock that. It might help to optimize the experience of unlocking your creativity, but it's certainly not necessary to make great art. And I think that, that is a capitalist lie that gets fucking sold to us, that you need the big ass studio setup and you need fuck you money and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think that's true at all. I think the more you look into yourself and pull out good shit, that's where the really interesting stuff comes from. And it doesn't matter where you are.
I think you've packaged a lot into that statement. I agree with the statement, but I think there's a lot in there. So
I do that sometimes.
like unpacking it slightly.
Yeah.
So going back 10, 20 years, you had to have hard cash to record anything. Now, you need a laptop.
Right.
You're right.
Like you can make like going back to the conversation earlier about, let's put Kiva in a studio and just let her go crazy.
Yeah.
Like we could do that right now. We can just go into the house and Kiva can go crazy and we can record it and we can produce it.
Gonna have a good night tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then on the flip side of that, it's like who's going to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this capitalist money comes in. This is where the like Bowie or the Grateful Dead or whoever you want to name, like they can go and they can make this crazy world. And you could go down the road and find a homeless person that's the best musician you've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
But unless there's something there to make it to the masses, what's achieved in that world?
Well, I think that just assumes that taking something to the masses is the end goal.
But that's what we're discussing, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think we're discussing that necessarily. But if you are talking about how do you maintain a lifestyle of some, like, quite frankly, like the affording the place that we lease here, right? It's like to replace the salary that I make in my day job. Like that would be significant. I mean, not that I make a ton of money, but it's like in musical terms, it's not like I can go busking or I could go and play a winery for a couple $100, an evening or something, and be able to pay my rent. So to make it to the level where the revenue comes in that's necessary to sustain the lifestyle that we find ourselves in here, then yes, right? It takes money to make money.
It's not the
It
lifestyle.
does. In the sense that, like, if you're talking about, I need, or anyone would need to have the funds to advertise the music, to market the product that it is that you put together, right? You can make the most amazing anything in the world, but if no one knows about it, then what's the point, right?
Well, I think it goes back to the conversation earlier. It's that I made something that I think's amazing, and other people are happy about it. Then the connection here is the capitalistic view of it. So I know an artist that's very close to us right now, and he does busking, and he lives, and he pays his rent, and he does everything he wants to do, and he's happy doing it. But at what point does that not become enough?
I think. I mean, they would have to answer that for themselves, but I think it's there in a way, right? I mean, that person in particular is wanting to make it to the next level, and that it will take some kind of an investment, right?
Yeah. And he's been offered that investment, but he's never taken it. So
We're really talking in some kind of a
yeah.
listeners are probably like, these assholes.
These-
Like,
yeah,
why are they
what the
talking
hell?
about this
What
right
the-
now?
well, yeah. Let's line it up.
I think this is a good time to put a pin in it. Like,
Yeah?
how long we've
Cool.
probably been going for a piece now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For
I mean,
sure.
I'm going hour and a half maybe,
Right.
based on the glass.
So I do want to say one
That was
thing
almost
here.
exactly correct.
Oh really? Oh shit.
That is knowing one's consumption
Yeah,
right there.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
impressive.
Wow.
And so I do want to say one thing real quick. Tomorrow is or here in a few hours, is the 1-year anniversary of building the stage.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow. Wow. Round of applause for that.
right?
Round of
Yeah.
applause.
So thank you guys for being here to kind of
That's
celebrate.
wonderful.
Hey, I'm
Thanks
happy
so
to be
much.
here. This was I've been watching this online, on YouTube for the last however long you've been doing it, and it's kind of a bit crazy to think I'm sitting in the orange chair doing it myself.
Doing the thing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be up at your place in Copperopolis in July. July
24th,
July,
not
correct.
September 24th.
July.
Okay.
Yeah. With Catalyst and Austin Freeman, the Hard Souls Band, and we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to do an acoustic night, that thing, or I don't know how we'll work it out. But anyway, we're going to do it at your place. That's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
awesome.
we'll be there.
You'll be there.
I'll be there. Yeah.
Great, good. I need somebody
This
to unlock
time,
the
yeah.
door. Oh yeah, that's right. We did rehearse. Remember when you first got the place? And you started remodeling, and then you offered it for us to go up and rehearse.
Yes.
And that was such a great weekend for us. That was we rehearsed for hours. That
Oh,
was
it was
some
like
of the
8-hour
hardest-
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the hardest we did. And then we came back and played a benefit show after that, and I think killed
But
it.
that's
Like,
got to be
that was great.
be almost 2
We were on
years
the
ago
news
then.
that night
It
too.
was.
That was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah.
Changed. There's no piece of what do you call it? I'm going to say plasterboard, but you don't call it plasterboard.
Oh, sheetrock.
Sheetrock, yeah,
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 right,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a piece of sheetrock.
There
With like,
was.
do not go past this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are already working in here. Do not step past this
Yeah.
line. Yeah, that was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And in case the audience is still listening, because we've been here a while, if you've got any medical conditions or you know,
Plug it.
I have to do this. You know,
Plug
I have
it.
to do
Go
this.
for it,
This is my new passion. But yeah, if you find yourselves in a position where you can't speak for yourself because you've either done too many drugs or whatever the thing is, medical alert, like $24 a year. You got a phone call there,
Yeah.
and they'll make sure you're happy. They'll make sure you live.
Excellent.
All right.
Beautiful.
$2 a month.
Yeah.
$2 a month.
Thank
That
you.
works.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Very nice.
Right.
Peace out.